Hey friend, welcome to On the Daily. I'm your host, Danielle McCleary, and I am a quantum business coach. I'm the host of this podcast. I'm a multi-six-figure entrepreneur, co-founder and president of Hype You Media, and CEO of Danielle on the Daily Coaching. What I'm really interested in is helping you live a life and have a business that is a full body yes. So through all of my education and all of my experience, I'm bringing you 2 episodes a week where I will guide you and give you the tools necessary to scale a massive, sustainable, and sexy business using your intuition, wealth energetics, and human design. What we can call it is business biohacking. So if you're down for that, then I say let's frickin' go. I'm so glad you're here. All right, my friends, I got Abel Hart on the show today, which was very much, we've already started chatting, so you're very much coming into our conversation. So welcome to our conversation. I very much was like, this guy is dope as shit and I need him. I need to have a conversation with him. And I literally went into his DMs. I was like, hi, do you want to be on my podcast? And he was like, let's do it. And so here we are. I'm so happy you're here. Welcome.
Amazing. Thank you for having me. Seriously. Like we were just talking about before. I mean, I love doing podcasts and I love having these conversations. And I think it's super important, especially having any sort of social platform. I mean, it's irrelevant if you have 1,000 or 20 million. I think what it sounds like you're also so into, frequency, alignment, law of attraction, just manifestation, all of these things. I think it's so important as a human being. And then on top of that, having any sort of platform to be able to speak from. Again, it could be 1,000 to 20 million. I think it's such a sort of a disservice.
Totally.
And a little bit selfish. Mind you, if someone made it and made their thing and they have no idea what this is and it's irrelevant to what I'm about to say, but I think it's a disservice not to speak, and to talk about these things, even though sometimes as a brand, especially in the art, being an artist and in the music field, it can be, I don't want to say a little bit of a jolt or like polar. Why does he talk about life? Sit down and music, or sing something. Right. It can be a bit, I don't want to say confusing, but a little bit of a shock maybe.
Yeah.
But that's just how it happened for me. And honestly, regardless of being a disservice, I just can't help myself.
Yeah, same. That's how I am. When I was in school, everyone was like, she's so smart. She talks too much. And I'm like, well, fuck, we might as well make that a thing. We might as well make some money.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's funny. That's what all my friends call me, like when they're on long road trips. Because it's like, no, I'll talk forever, talk about life, or maybe something that might motivate them.
Everyone else has fallen asleep in the car and you're just still going. That's me.
Yes. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that for sure. Yeah. So,
well, I'm really glad you're here. I think you're probably the most fun person I follow on the internet right now. For a multitude of reasons. I went to theater school. And so even just you're a physical character, the shapes your body makes when you record these videos. I'm like, that's an art all on its own, beyond the music, beyond the songwriting, beyond the fact that you literally tune music to the frequency of abundance. All of that shit is I think, yes, it's awesome. And I'm the way this guy moves is so fucking awesome. And I'm just really excited to chat. I just think I think you're you're doing something that a lot of people are really afraid to do. And I think you're kind of this permission slip for all people right now to kind of just be yourself. And it's really fucking awesome. So kudos.
That means a whole lot. And it definitely, I'd love to say that I would love to be, I'll just say that's just, who I am comfortably being, especially on social media. But it was in normal life, in real life, this is me, and it's hey, because humor has definitely helped me throughout my path, just not taking things so seriously. And and then sometimes that's an issue, it's when you should be taking things serious.
That's your blessing and your curse.
For sure. 150%. But it took a minute. I mean, out of the spectrum of my whole career of doing, being involved in music or the industry, it was small. It took a small amount of time. Now, fortunately, I don't know if you spoke to Chaz, my manager. I saw I want to say I don't know when I started music. I started music, I was way over a decade ago, which just
Yep.
freaking dates me, unless I just say that I started music when came out the womb,
I walked out creating music. There you go.
I walked out singing. Yeah, it was throughout the whole career. I really had it was so purpose driven and creating Able Heart. I was like, I want this project because now I'm skipping over a lot of parts of my personal life and the experiences that I've had that led me to the point of even making and starting, Able Heart, and Able Heart meaning you're able to do anything your heart desires.
And that came from your mom, right?
Yeah, it came from my mom. So I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I started out producing, and I had another project called Jaden Parks, and I was just producing mostly EDM and doing a lot of ghost work. And I was just having difficulty in my life, lost and dealing with addiction and just confused and really honestly, just trying to run the show. Everything that I thought, like how it should be done in life is how it needs to be done. And then when it got effed up, it was like, oh, okay, I'll do it again, but I'll just not do this one thing. And that's why it didn't work. So I'm going to do it this way now. Yeah. But it's just it's just the definition of insanity, consistently doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. Right. So
you're just on a loop. You're just on this like constant loop. And then and I feel like if there's lessons to be learned, then if we don't learn the lessons, it's going to come back around, but it's going to come back around harder every fucking time until you actually learn it. Like they keep coming back around. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck is they're like, oh, I'm going to just switch one thing. I'm going to just change that thing. But they're not actually learning the lesson, and it's going to hit harder until you learn it. Like universe is going to be like, fucking figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, totally. And it's hard to hear sometimes. And I guess it also depends on who you hear it from, right? Because sometimes it's not so much as about the message as it is the messenger giving the message, right? It's like your parents could tell you to do something your whole life, and then you meet your hero and he's like, don't do the same thing your parents have been telling you your whole life. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll definitely not do that anymore. And your parents are like, what the fuck? But yeah, I think it's just, in order to live a life that you always wanted, you essentially have to become someone completely different. It's just like really that simple, but
it really is.
But so many intricacies within that, and the excuses. I mean, I talk about the excuses all the time. We have the best excuses. They're so good. They're like,
and they're perfect because it keeps that wound there. Like, oh, if I was more organized, I could do that. Or, oh, if I wasn't so busy, I could do that, but I'm not. So, oh, well, maybe someday, and then we just stay.
It's ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, it is past prehistoric, self DNA, like just how we grew up. We need fight or flight. We need to survive. We need to know all the negative things that could potentially happen so that we could survive. It's like really that simple as well. Yeah. Right. But things.
Well, and you were a snowboarder, right? Like that was you got really injured.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of the name of the game, right? It'd be a shorter list. I always say it'd be a shorter list to tell you the things that I haven't broken. But yeah, I did have one injury in my back that definitely threw me out for like pretty much good. I mean, at the end of the day, I know plenty of people that break things that you're like, they're never going to even be able to walk in general again. And then they're back doing, whether it's snowboarding, motocross, whatever it is.
Right.
And
so how did that moment change you? Like when you went from being like, 'cause you were like going to the Olympics, like I was reading an article.
My goal. Yeah. My full goal was, definitely the Olympics. It was that X Games. And so I was just traveling all over. I was very fortunate enough to be able to travel all over and compete. And again, with that comes injuries, and we're living all over at different places. And, I want to say I was maybe like 15 or so. And how did it affect me? To answer your question, it was, I don't think obviously not at the time did I know like how really catastrophic it would be in my life. I mean, I look back now and I say it's the best thing that never happened for me. Right. But I was lost, like that was my everything. That was all I was going to do for the rest of my life. Nothing else could take me away from it. That's it. Like there's nothing else I didn't want to think about. And there was no point of thinking about anything else because anything that I did on an everyday basis was involved in that and continuously getting better at that one thing. And that was it. Essentially, that was all I knew. And the people that I associated with, that's all they knew. And that's all they did. And that's what their lives, were. So, So once it ended, right, and especially once it's like a third party external outside of myself cause, like I didn't choose for that to happen, right?
Right.
I got the case of the efforts, you know, it's like F this, like if I
Yeah.
can't, I was younger, I was just like, if I can't do this, I won't fucking do
And I
nothing.
want to do nothing. Yeah. I'm going
Yeah,
to
it's just
avoid
some bullshit.
everything.
Like, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And I got thrown back into like the normal just schooling system, just like
Mm-hmm.
public school. And obviously I definitely didn't like it. So before that, when I used to travel for snowboarding, we used to have a team, and the team would have like a traveling tutor that would go with
Yep.
us. So, and I still didn't really pay attention. It was just like, can you just like do the work? And so I can just snowboard.
I was a professional dancer when I was in my teens, and
Oh,
same thing. I
wow.
had a lot of like private tutors and stuff, and it was like, but going back from that, going back to public school, I was like, I don't want to be here. I can tell you that. Whatever it is,
Yeah.
I don't want to be in this. I don't want to be right here.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely had a lot, and I still did, years later, and I consistently still work through, just like not so much anymore, which is really awesome. But
Mm-hmm.
and we could talk about that, but imposter syndrome. Like I dealt with that
Oh.
so much because when I only went to before we started traveling and we had a tutor,
Mm-hmm.
I went to school probably like a month, like a little bit less than a semester. I don't even know how long semesters are, but like a month or
Mm-hmm.
so. So I knew some people. I didn't really have friends there, but I like
Right.
love more so acquaintances.
Right.
And so they knew that I was the kid that always left and went snowboarding. So anytime I'd be there for that month before I'd go for the rest of the year, every year, they'd be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, the kid's gonna be in X Games or the Olympics," and they'd put all this stuff on me. And I was
All
like,
the
"Oh,
pressure.
yeah." I'd be like, "Oh God," like in my head, I'm like, "Oh, this is never gonna happen."
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, just so much pressure, feeling
I
imposter
I think
syndrome.
I honestly think that like this is the case for I think a lot of athletes, like kids who grew up in like athletics, like the imposter syndrome and the need to just like say yes and hustle and grind and this like constant state of fight or flight that we get stuck in. I always
Mhm.
say like if somebody tells me they were a child athlete, I'm like, I know you're kind because I am one of those. And it took forever. Like, I don't think I broke up with that. Like, I don't think I broke up with that need to be needed, that need for outside validation, that like addiction I had to hustle and grind and just doing more, being more. I don't think I actually broke up with that until my dad died like 2.5 years ago. Like, I
Oh,
think that was the
wow.
moment I finally broke up
Do
with
you
it.
think you get that from, do you think you get that from him as well? I mean, obviously the grind and everything you're doing athletically, but
Yeah, I think growing up, like I was a smart girl. I got great grades. I am also a generator in human design. I don't know if you know human design that well, but like I like to be busy and it's always been a thing. And then you get praised for being busy. You get praised for these things. And then you start to go, oh, well, that's how I'm worthy then. If I'm doing something that people like, then I am worthy. And so you kind of just go. But I think with my dad, it was like he was also this like really cool. He was my best friend in the whole world, but he was a security blanket. Like he was a safety net for me. And so once he died and that got like ripped out from under me, I was like kind of really forced to like look at myself for the first time and be like, is this actually the way we want to go? Is this actually the way we want to live? Is this
uh,
actually who we are trying to become? And I mean, ultimately the answer was no. And after a ton of burnout and like the fuck it's like wanting to
yeah.
literally burn everything to the ground, I
Wow. Yeah,
found a new
I mean, yeah,
frequency.
yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's also, you bring up like just being busy. There's also, you realize there's a difference than like busy work than actually doing things that need to get done that are actually moving you forward.
Totally.
I mean, the reason I asked if you thought you got that from your dad was because
Mm-hmm.
I definitely do. Definitely my mom and my dad, they're both very hardworking. And that
Uh-huh.
word hardworking, like I want to say that a lot of things happen. I want to say that a lot of things happen in my life, like positive and in my career because of all the hard work I did. Like I want to truly, I believe that for my whole life.
I was
And
gonna
up
say
until
you don't still believe that.
no,
No, same.
but this is
I say I'm allergic. I like working hard. I will work hard on the things that I love, but I am allergic to hard work. I'm allergic to hard work. I will work hard though.
yeah, I mean, that's definitely like an amazing way to actually phrase it. And I might steal that from you because
Please.
I feel because it's still tricky for me. I'm the person that's like, I'm never going to sleep. I'm going to sleep as much as humanly possible. I'm not going to eat, and I'm just going to do what I have to do in order, but I want to do it. And then especially it becomes, I don't want to say way easier, because it's definitely not, but it becomes much more motivating when you're doing the one thing that you now found passion for. So it's like, I can't even, just like I said, I can't help myself but talk about life. I can't help but like, I need to do this. I need to finish. I need to learn how to make music. I need to learn how to write. I need to learn how to sing. And I could do everything. We live in the best time and age. So I got to do it all. And we could do it on the internet. I don't need like a million people to learn this shit,
Right. Well, and you the other day, you literally like made a song and you like put it out like that night.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And we did like 40, but we did 40 songs in 40 days, and some were past release, and then some were just make. And then we went somewhere, traveled, and then we just, we wanted a content strategy around everything. So we're like, it has to be a full, because we shoot on the A7S III. So it's like, it has to be full quality, like full content for each day that comes out, as well as the cover art and then the music, the video for it. And so it was a lot, but at the end of the day, it's hard even now, because I don't believe it. To answer your question, I don't no longer believe it. And it kind of feels effed up, because I just had this conversation with someone, or maybe it was my dad the other day. And I was like, it almost seems effed up, because I am receiving like from the universe and abundance and life way more once I stopped working so hard.
Oh yeah.
And as I get like goosebumps, because that sounds effed up. Like it sounds like I want to be like, oh my gosh, you're just tripping. You're just tripping. It's all the hard work that you put in. Like it don't trip, don't slip. You know what I mean? Don't fall back on your Lord. Don't. What are you doing? Like that's where my subconscious still, like I know the reality, like the actuality. I don't like the word reality, because we live in a simulation. But it's still tricky, because I'm like, oh well, how much can I sleep, today? Like how much sleep? I still definitely deal with that, because
and like you're in this like really crazy busy season of your career right now too. So like I feel like the old impulses creep back in when we're like really on fire, where we're like, oh, I could just keep working. But then I always have to remind myself, I'm like, no, but that led you to the most epic burnout you've ever experienced. And that wasn't fun. I actually say now, when people ask, because I'll tell people that, I'm like, I'm allergic to hard work. I won't do it. Like if it doesn't bring me peace in my body, if it feels obligatory, I'm not interested. I'm not available for anything that's not energetically mutually beneficial. It's a hard pass for me. And I was like, I'm kind of interested in like being the laziest millionaire ever. Like, how can I do that?
Like that still, I'm not going to lie to you. Like that still makes me, like, to think about that makes me cringe, like makes me sick to my stomach.
Right.
But I also understand everything that you're saying, so it's like, I also believe that there is a bit, at least in the creative space, and maybe you could relate, but a bit of balance, because there's sometimes I could just sit there and be like, I'm just going to make the music that I want to make. And like, but I still have to produce and do a ton of other stuff that I really like. I enjoy doing. I've done it for so long. I definitely enjoy doing it, but there's a ton of stuff in which I love to do that I necessarily don't love doing. So it's like,
do you think it's balance that we're trying to find, or do you think it's like harmony?
I mean, that's good. Yeah. I mean, harmony, being in alignment. I think those are two good things. I heard someone say the other day, that's like no such thing as balance. I read that book, like literally. So, I just don't, I think it's just a twist of words. Like, I forget what book it is. I literally just finished it.
I don't remember either.
Yeah. And it's essentially saying the same thing. It's like everything is balance, and it's just, okay, yes, you do one thing, or you're involved. Let's say for me, for sake of conversation, I'm involved with production, I'm producing X, Y, and Z, and I'm doing this over here. That's where my time and energy is spent. And I fucking, I go hard, excuse my language, but that's what I do. Let's knock this out. Let's do what it is. And I have to create a balanced routine within that excessive time frame, of what I'm doing there. And then I jump over here. Let me do my project. Let me do the content. Let me do this. And I create a balance, make sure I go to the gym, have nature, my meditation, a good sleep schedule, as hard as that is sometimes. But if I'm going back and forth and I'm swaying in the balance of each of those excessively extreme things, would that not just still be balance? It's essentially the same thing. It's just worded.
I think you're right. I mean, I've always called it like a harmony, because like for some reason, whenever I've like tried to be like, I need to be balanced, I find myself getting that like that itch to just keep going instead of actually listening to what my body wants.
Oh, really?
And yeah, like there's sometimes like if it, let's say like, I don't know, let's say it's like
maybe it's the word. Maybe it's the word.
It could be the word. It could be this like, because for so long I like tried to establish this thing that like didn't really exist. And, you know, cause there's times where like you, like I'm on a roll, like this week and next week, I'm actually recording like 24 podcast episodes in like 8 days because I want my entire quarter to be completely planned out so that come my birthday in December, I'm not working from December 20th to the end of the year. And the only way that happens is if I do this work on the front end. So although I'm like, do I actually want to like do that many episodes in that short of time? Not really, but would it feel better done? Absolutely. So then the harmony is I'm going to do it all now. And then later I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to you in like creating music, right? So since I just finally set up the studio and I was so balanced or trying to live in harmony of, you know, stuff's getting delivered. I can't like actually track vocals I can now, but I couldn't at the time because I needed to actually soundproof and treat it and do it the proper way so that I can track vocals so it doesn't sound like I'm freaking singing in the garage, which would parlay would be, it's kind of ironic because the things that are like that are usually the things that pop. But, but yeah, so I just sat here. I was like, I'm just going to, it doesn't have to be like the final song. Like I'm going to try to do something because when I sit down, I make a song, I finish it. I have to do it. Like I just finish it because I don't want to think about it. Then I'll overthink it. And like I've done that. I've been down that path and I've done it so long at this point that I just know fluidly what works. And but now not having that for the time being up until now, not having that time, I was like, I'm just going to keep knocking out a song. Like I'm just going to knock out a song. It's not the final song. I'll go back and track the vocals and finish it later, you know, but I'm just in this flow state. I'm like another song. Then I just like stop, finish it and finish it, you know, tracking and writing the whole thing, put it off, you know, next one. So I can relate to what you're saying because I'm doing that currently, but I also think that there's like a crazy ceiling with that in the creative space. And I've done that so much, which is pop, 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 pop. Oh, I'm in the flow state. And I keep going. I get freaking burned out and I don't want to do it. I don't want to be involved in it. I don't feel as hype about what I had created in those past crazy moments as I did when making it. Right. And then I also have to promote it. So now that same frequency and energy isn't going to be in the promotion of it. So how is anyone going to resonate with the way that I felt while making it? So I think it's a balance. And this is what I was just talking about with my manager last night. I was like, okay, and maybe you could relate because you're doing 24 podcasts, which is nuts. But I was like, I start to make something, you know, I make it. I want to, like, I have to have my gym, you know, I need to go to the gym. Like, I don't want to, you know, I just want to keep working and I could come up with great excuses because I'm working and I'm making something that essentially will continuously move me forward in life. Great excuse. It's very valid and it's real, but that's like not what we're doing now. You know, that's what I tell myself.
And the whole point, like I listen to, you know, all this music that you've put out lately, and that music is at least as a listener, it is literally the byproduct of somebody who has a life well lived. And if you are not living your life and experiencing new things, then there's no art.
Yeah, it's such a catch-22 at the same time because and I could tell myself, well, this is what I'm doing and I'm experiencing. I could talk about all the past experiences that I have, but yes, then how are you supposed to sustain continuously doing what you are currently doing, right? It's this thing and it's great excuses we could come up with. But at the end of the day, I was just like, all right, I have the gym. Like I finished this part of it. And as hard as it is for me to step back, which I have to stop saying, I have to just start saying, it's very easy for me to step back. It's very easy for me. So
right.
Putting it out there. But if we're just speaking and hopefully anything that I say resonates with someone else that's either in the creative space or whatever you're doing, you're studying for law, and you nonstop. If we don't have that balance, it's like it ruins the sustainability of continuously doing it. Or even worse, sometimes it takes away that spark, that passion, that love for that thing, right? So it's like, how do I find that fine line? And it's really just coming up with daily routines of the things that you sometimes pretty much don't necessarily want to do, but it helps you sustain doing everything so that it can move you forward to everything you want out of this life and you want to do, you know? So it's a balance. I don't know. Or I'm just crazy. Yeah.
Or we're just fucking insane. And you know what? Maybe I've thought about that. I've considered that. I'm cool with that. Like, you know what? The people that are crazy, like, we have a lot of fun together. So I'm all for it. When do you think you're like the most creative? Like, besides when you're making music, like when in your life do you feel like you're the most creative?
When I have either time away, like that's a big thing for me because of what I was just speaking on. I've done that so much. And again, most of the time, this is like the first experience, like a house, and I love it. It's beautiful. Everything's new and it's cool. At first, I definitely had the imposter syndrome. I was like, oh my God, because all I've done for years and years is, I don't know if you've ever seen Ennis, but he's on YouTube. He does these amazing house showings. And I love watching. I watch it every single morning. I still do.
Yeah.
And then just like a lot of this stuff in here just looks like a lot of the stuff that I see there. And it's almost like, oh my God, just very imposter syndrome at first. And I was like, what am I doing? Do I even really need to do this? I could just, when I first moved here, I was like, oh, I could just like literally live in the little room, like in the front. Like that's what, and I said that, and I said to my manager, and it's such past programming, this is my comfortability zone. This is what I could do. I could knock everything out. I don't need all this. And essentially that's true. I don't need it, but I want it. I've worked and I was in a life, I've been to this place where now I deserve it. And that took me forever to get to. Like, I deserve anything, It's always just like self-detriment, like just really just no to me. Do what you have to do, like very military mentality to myself.
Right. What's like something that you bought for your house that was like unreasonably expensive that like,
I mean, the answer is always going to be the couch.
Always. Okay, wait. Yeah. Which couch did you buy?
I don't even know. I don't even honestly want to talk about it because I also didn't want to wait. Because I told you in the beginning when we were talking, you get a house and you're like, at least me.
It must be decorated tomorrow.
It has to all get done, because I want to focus on the things that I need to do that are going to move me forward.
Yeah. We decorated our entire house in literally 45 days. Like
that's awesome.
But I had a designer. I literally like hired my friend and I was like, I need you to just.
That's what my sister's a designer as well. So she was like helping me. And she lives in California. She's actually coming to visit soon. But I was like, everything needs to be done. And it needs to be this. So I'm not thinking about it because it was driving me. It was again, this was a first experience for me. I was like, I've never had something not just so nice, so new. I was like, I've never experienced this. I just thought I could I'd go to most of the little rooms, or I used to have like a shed that I would live in. I was like, I could just set this motherfucker up. And
I know. And how crazy was it? Like, how crazy was it? Like seeing the charges come through and you're like, no problem. Like, okay.
I was like, oh, well, because, and then with the couch, right?
Yeah.
It's so funny that you relate to that. It's always a freaking couch. I went everywhere. I mean, ideally, I probably should have just took my time, but I just never really do that. I'm just like, let's do it. Let's take care of it. These are things that need to get done. And they're really not of that much importance. So I'm going to take, just like you said, the small period of time to just knock this out, do what I have to do. Yep. And so then I could spend the rest of it doing the purpose of why I'm actually here. Right.
Yep.
And again, it's a balance because I could go on, I could still be on that journey of finding things, everything's not done, but I needed these essential pieces, at least in my head, the way I wanted to create. I need a freaking couch, I need to sit on something because I'm big on, especially you just asked to go back to the main question you asked, as far as when you feel most creative. One, when I have enough time away, or two, when I'm having a new experience. And again, I don't know if you were asking more so like day or night. I don't know. It just differs.
Anytime.
But those two, and within a new experience, and especially relocating and moving, which I've done so many times, I love it. But the biggest thing that I would suggest for anybody, or I just know for myself, is when you start somewhere, you freaking start the routine right off the jump.
Right there. Yep.
Have to, because your little day, you're going to get things going here. Maybe you're going to find a job if that's your thing. And maybe you're going to just slow. And then at the end of it, when you're like, okay, you got your stuff set up and everything's there, to create a good, healthy routine that's going to be sustainable and just mentally correct, it's so much harder.
So much harder.
You know?
Yeah. It's always harder to go back. Like, that's why I do what I do. Cause I'm like, listen, I made a lot of mistakes. I went in the wrong direction, well, not the wrong direction. Cause obviously like everything, I'm standing on every past version of myself, obviously. But like I made a lot of crazy, chaotic decisions. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
And, but real quick, circling back to the couch one more time. I bought the Restoration Hardware cloud couch. I fucking did it.
I couldn't freaking get it. So
I bought it.
I want to say like, congratulations.
Thank you
congratulations
so
to you. I went to
11 feet.
I know which one you wanted, because I wanted the white. I wanted the white. I had it, the cloud couch. That's what I wanted to get. And
That's what I got.
Yeah,
the white one.
Good for you. Maybe I was too balanced and I rested on my laurels.
Come on, and you can come and visit, and you can sit on my couch.
I'm good because you have it and you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. I'm not mad at the couch I got, but that's what I wanted. I wanted everything white. I wanted all white. And again, I rushed it. Most of the stuff that I got when I first got here, I'm like, I'm starting to look on the internet, and in my head, I'm like, this could go here and this picture could go here. And I want to do this part. And then I start to realize like I'm more of a minimalist. Like I thought minimalism means like you like cheap things, but that's what I thought. Just like you like things clean, I guess. I don't know.
It actually means you like very expensive things, but less of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. But anyways, that's why I came. So I bought all this stuff and I got it here. I was like, oh my gosh, what have I done?
Oh no.
So I returned so much of it, which I have a coupe and nothing could fit in there. So it was a process to do that. So I drove everywhere and in person, and that's the difficulty with the couch. I'm sure you could half of this podcast is about a couch.
You know what? I've had a whole other podcast episode about this couch. Like I talk about this couch a lot. This couch was a pivotal moment.
What color did you get? Did you get gray, white?
I got like that dove white color, but like in the perennial fabric that could like be indoor, outdoor.
Congratulations!
Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
It was the best $10,000 I've ever spent in my whole life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's awesome.
Everyone's like, you don't need that couch. There's other ones you could buy. I'm like, you're right.
Yeah. So whatever. Okay. It's not that I couldn't buy it. I wasn't willing to wait 4 to 6 months.
No, totally. There were definitely things when we were decorating our house where I was like he was like, well, this is going to take 6 months. I was like, no, we can do it. But like in my office, for example, I want these cabinets. We've been in since January. I want these awesome black cabinets that are going to be like kind of right behind my head, and they're still not in. And I'm like, I will wait for these cabinets because it's my office. It's where I'm going to spend most of my time. Like I will wait for that. But like other things, I was like, fuck no, I'm not waiting 6 months for that. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know how you found how long did you wait for the couch?
4 days.
Oh my gosh. I went everywhere. Okay. Mind you, I did get a cloud couch, but it's Boucle.
Boucle?
Boucle's
great. I have Boucle chairs.
It's awesome. It's awesome. It's just not what I wanted, But I got that in 4 days. So I went everywhere. I was like, it's literally looks exactly the same, but it's not what I wanted.
Add to cart.
Where's the compromise? That's the thing with couches. You have to go in person. If I could have just picked a couch online, I'm sure maybe I probably could have found it, But I have to sit on it. Like everything says it's a cloud couch.
Wait, that Restoration Hardware in Miami is so sick.
Oh yeah.
It's so nice.
Yeah, but everything, it was just too long. And I was like, whatever. I'm just like this. I do like this. I do love this couch. I do love it. Would I have the same feeling as if I got that one? No, but it doesn't matter. Like I spend most of my time in here, and at the end of the day, it looks way like when I do content and stuff like that. It looks way not like right at the cloud couch. There's a lot of like sunken when you sit in it.
That bitch is high. She is the most high maintenance piece of furniture. She likes to be fluffed all the time. Yeah. But then again, like, so do I. I like to be fluffed all the time.
Yeah, so. I mean, if I said that, then it's wrong. Yeah, no, but seriously, I mean, whatever. I'm happy with it.
Yeah. So wait, I want to ask you, like, you talk a lot about this. I definitely want to talk about like tuning fucking music to the frequency of abundance. We are going to talk about that because that was fucking sick. But I want to talk about you. I listened to some of your older stuff
Yeah.
And I listen to some of your new stuff. So tell me about like the switch in this like project versus other projects. Like where's the, what's the difference of like who you are these days?
So yeah, kind of like I was actually starting to say a little bit earlier, when I started this project and the whole basis of Able Heart being able to do anything your heart desires, I was like, I produced before that, never sang, never wrote. I didn't do any of that. I was just too insecure, to be honest. I still deal with that. I was like, if I'm going to do it, and it was a life or death thing, again, I'm in and out of addiction, just struggling with a ton of things and super lost. I was like, I need to do, again, we talked about, I need to do something that I've never done before, and every time I'd go to treatment or I'd go to jail or I get, and something would happen, I would always I'd be like, oh, I'll do whatever I have to do. Even if it's different this time, fine. I won't do it my way, but a different way, whatever. I just want to go home. That's all I said to myself. I just want to go home, like back to people, places, and things, essentially that's what winds you up in the same scenarios. Right. So I was like, this time I was just, I don't know what the reason was. I just like internally felt it. I was like, I don't want to go home. I don't want to deal with anything. Like I want to completely start a new life. It's completely unknown. It's on the other side of the unknown, completely fearful. That's obviously why I wanted to go back to do all the same things, right? Because it's known, comfortability, right? That
ego loves that place.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I don't want to do it. Unfortunately, my sister had lived out in California in this little tiny studio. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. Like, I don't like, won't have a car or like what, I'm just like, no money, just whatever, my sister was fortunate enough to let me sleep on her little studio. I actually found, she sent me them the other day, pictures of the little studio.
You need to frame those.
Kitchen floor. I know I do have, there's a ton of things that have, like I would set up this little nook and I'd sleep there just in the kitchen floor. Again, it was a studio. And then I would set it up every single day, but I couldn't work there because the people would complain every day. Like, oh my gosh, I can't sing, or like, it's too loud, whatever. At the end of the day it was too loud. So I was having issues with that, but what started, to answer your question, the beginning of the project being so essentially dark and explicit is what I'm assuming you're referring to now being completely polar opposite. Is I saw the full picture when starting it. I knew where I was, what I had gone through, and the things that I experienced. And I wanted to use it as like a full picture platform. If someone were to see start to finish, I wanted it to have a complete storyline. So I always wanted to eventually either go into pop or something. I never would have figured going into hip hop. I have tons of my own insecurities around that, but I wanted it to start like genuine, true, honest, like me to express the way that I feel inside without actually carrying through those acts in real life, right? Because it was like a lot of the times I would want to do a lot of the things that I used to be involved in, or X, Y, and Z. So I would pretty much use it as like journaling and writing and venting the way that I feel inside it without expressing, doing those things. Not ironically, it's just how frequency works, right?
Right.
It's just so crazy. Not really, but it's like, it just led me the same thing. I thought that it was a good thing, and it was journaling, and I was talking about these things and expressing the way I feel and the darkness and really the dark frequencies and all of these things. And I'm talking about, it just led me down the same thing. Boop. And I was like,
did you fall back into addiction?
Oh yeah. Fall right back into it. Same thing, but now in a different place. And then I would go back and I would go back home, same situation, same things, boom, making the same music, same frequencies, right? I didn't even know this at the time. And I've been on this wave of like manifestation, law of attraction for a minute. Right. But not so much as like, when it came to music, I'm like, this is my creative art, and this is the way I want. Like, I think even if I knew at that time, I still would have did it just because that's
the frequency you were at. So that's what was like,
I think even selflessly, like I wanted it to be able to resonate with someone else that has gone through the same things, or something that they could relate to. And if that meant that I had to go through my own BS and do it just to get it out to the world so that someone could see the end result.
Yeah.
Right. Then it's worth it for me. Right. Yeah. To go through that. So even if I knew what I know now, I still would have did it regardless. Because when I was in California, that was the first time, mind you, I traveled for snowboarding. But when I went there, I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, I'm home. It's like, oh, like they think like me, they speak like me, and
they get it.
They look like me. Yeah, I was just like, this this is awesome, because I
Yeah.
felt like I had the dumb, and this is so true. And this is what's nuts that I can't even talk about this right now, because I always felt like because I'm so worried about what other people are going to think my whole entire life. But yet, if and I had to do this so many times, I had to go deep within. I was like, well, anything that I say I never say anything. Like, I know myself well enough. I would never say anything out of malintent or ever want to hurt anybody. If anything that I say, I just want it to either resonate with someone or maybe even takes them away from like whatever they're going through for 2 to 3 minutes a song, or a 6-second piece of content.
Yeah.
Like, so if that's the case, why am I so worried about all the things that I'm going to say? It's because I'm still fearful of the way people are going to perceive me. But if I'm truly secure and like know myself and love myself, like, and know those things I just spoke on, then why would any of that matter? Then you have to pair that with the fact that hurt people, right?
Yep.
That's just what it is. And it's like, okay, so then that's true. So I got to the place where it's just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know. All of it's just, I love having these conversations. All of it's very, very mind blowing, but I just at a place where it's like, damn, like I deserve, like, I think just that word in general, like the things you like realize that you actually deserve. We're so like suppressed. I feel like
your whole body like just shifted when you said the word deserve. Like your shoulders just like dropped a little bit. Yeah. Like you really like marinated into that.
Yeah, it's definitely a real thing. It's changed my whole entire life. It was a tricky thing and a weird thing. And I grew up with awesome parents, like just like you said, like dad's in music. He's a G, super, super smart, both of them. But very, I don't know how to say it. Like they'd be fine even if they watch all my stuff. So
well, it's an older generation, right? It's like it's a different time. Like my parents were the same way. Like it's this like different mentality. But I always say like we get to stand on the generations that came before us. And the reason I always say it's like two different operating systems. Like I sometimes feel like my mom and my dad, they operate on DOS and we're operating on iOS. And it's like, they're both great, but like, they're just different and they process at different speeds. They grow at different, like, think of how fast, like think how slow it used to be to even like upgrade the system of your computer. Like now my iPhone like updates overnight while I'm sleeping. Like it's just a different processing system and it's not bad or worse. It's just, thank goodness DOS existed because that's why we're here now.
I mean, what you're saying is completely true. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I think for anybody, it's a perspective switch and for sure, like the older generations, I think it's definitely a lot harder because there's and plus it's like so much more, years worth of past programming to try and switch. You'd be like, oh my God, gotta do what? For me, it was like, what really helped me, this sounds so silly, but like I was going to say, I grew up, my parents, like if I would want a bottle of water or a drink, my mom wasn't so much like that, but my dad was. So anytime I was around, like we were traveling or we would go somewhere, you just wait till you get home. He's not like aggressive by any means. We wait till you get home to get a bottle of water or a drink or something. What are you going to pay for it? And it's like $1.10. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah.
Very small. So my whole life. So even when I went to California, anywhere I would go, I wouldn't do that. It was like pennies on the dollar, everything. And you want to know what really changed the game for me? Once I actually had that perspective shift and I was like, oh my gosh, because COVID happened, I went back and my whole mentality opened up. I had the things that happened with NBC and like all of these things. And I'm around people that actually are on that same wavelength. And I'm in California where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm home. But then I'm around people where I'm like, oh my, these are my people. Like this is what it is. Like, oh my gosh, we live in simulation, whole perspective change. And then COVID had happened. And now I'm back around my parents, which I hadn't been for a while. Like we'd visit, but not living with them,
Yeah.
And so I went back and then I got sick. So I was like, I just saw so much. I was like, holy, like so much of like me as well, which brought up a lot of frustrations because I was like, oh my gosh, like, like, this is why, this is why, these things that have happened in my life. I'm like this and blah, blah. So then I really want to switch. And I'm like, these are the things that help me, like, how can I help you? It's not as quick as it is for us, for older generations. There's a lot more processing.
Oh my God. I try to get my mom like all the time. I'm like, Mom, like she makes these and like my mom makes these incredible baby blankets and she'll just send them to my friends who have children.
You tell them to make a business?
I'm like, Mom, I'm a business coach, babe. Like I will help you do this. She's like, no, it's, they're not perfect. And like, I don't want people to like, judge them. And I was like, like at first I used to get really frustrated with her. I'd be like, what the fuck? And now I'm like, it's a different operating system. That's all it is. That's all it is. Because like I see something and I'm like, oh, we can monetize that. Let's fucking go. Like,
yeah. I mean, I could relate to that as well. I mean, my mom does the same thing with floral arrangements.
Oh yeah.
Like, start a business, do this and set all these things. Just do it, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I couldn't even imagine if that was actually a thing.
I'm too busy for that. I'm like, what do you mean you're busy? You go to the bank every day. I didn't even know people still went to the bank. Like, I don't. How many times do you need to go to Target? I don't understand. Yeah, she's like, I have to like deal with checks. I'm like, what even is a fucking check? Like,
yeah, it's so true. It's actually so funny. Parlay. I had to write a check for something. I'm swapping everything over my business over to Florida.
Yeah.
And I had to go into the mail and I asked the mail lady I was like, dude, how do you do this?
Yeah. Did you have to like go to the bank and ask them for like temporary checks? Like I've had to be like, I need just like a sheet of checks. Like,
just like one. A sheet. That's what I did. Yeah. I don't need a bunch of them.
I just need one check. That's it. Just one check.
That and receipts. I like that. I actually was on that way for a long time. I used to, my parents always had receipts, you know? My dad's an entrepreneur, so I'm like, okay, you have to keep receipts. You know, I also
don't have to keep receipts anymore. Yeah.
I also thought write-offs, you can write everything off.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I know it's so crazy. Wait, you said something though. You know what? You said it at the beginning, like when you were like, you know, I one thing you said that really struck me is you said, in LA, you did all these things and then you kind of went right back to it. And you kind of said it at the beginning of when we started chatting. You said, in order to become who you want to become, you kind of have to like be willing to do everything different.
Become someone completely different. And
to go where you've never gone, you got to do what you've never done. And it's just like, you kind of said that. And it's so interesting because I think a lot of people, I know that pinged a lot of people when you said that, because I'm like, how many times have people said, I want to change. I want to do whatever it takes in order to get to where I want to go. But I'm like, do you mean that? Or what you are saying right now is I will do whatever it takes as long as it doesn't challenge my current pattern of behavior.
Yeah, as long as, right?
Because that's truly, I mean, for me, that's how I became who I am. And like, that's how I went from like calling my dad for money all the time to like owning, a multi-million-dollar business. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, I literally had to be willing to become someone that I have never been. And like you said, it's scary, but I think we're taught to like be afraid of fear. That's like how we're taught, right? It's like this conditioning of like, if you're afraid of it, then you should stay away from it. And I'm always like, there are two different types of fear. There's literally fear for your life. And yes, you should probably stay away from that fear. But I would argue that 90% of your fear is really just your higher self being like, you want this, and your ego being like, no, we don't, because it's really safe here. And let's stay safe. And so like, I tell all my clients, I tell everyone, I'm like, if you feel that kind of fear, that is probably something to lean into, because that's probably the only way that you're going to get to that version of yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that was, so fluidly put. And it's like,
thank
perfect. You just chop that for yourself.
It's what I do. It's what I do for a living. Thank you very much.
Recycle it and just let people know, I couldn't also relate with it anymore. I mean, that's why we do it's past programming.
It's past programming. That's all it is. And so many people think that it's like, they're special. Like everybody always assumes that like, oh, well, I can't do that.
That's the thing that I know it held me back for so long. I haven't had this conversation in a minute, but it was like how so many, like I would see, like say it was like I go to treatment or I did something wrong and I would see this person and this person's trying to give this in the same place that I am, or say I'm like in jail and this person's trying to give me fucking advice. Like, I'm not going to listen to you. They're like, trust me. And I'm like, okay, they would explain to me. I understand. And I see some like similarities, but like, it's totally different. Like it's totally different.
Yeah. Oh, that's the perfect excuse. We're different.
Yeah. It's just different. Like it's different. Yeah. I could relate to all those things. If I just switched it until I started switching like the word, like say it was like they had a motorcycle on, mine was car, if I just started switching the word, for whatever my thing was,
same
if it was,
story.
Yeah, pain, hurt, or say you were like a gambler and someone's like, well, I'm not a gambler. I understand like that story sounds a lot like mine, but I drink, whatever it is, it's just switch the freaking word and be able to relate as us as human beings, even outside of all that nonsense. If we could just relate, understand be the ability to have like relatability, we would be able to grow so much more just as human, and we feel so much better. Be like, oh my gosh, that's a great perspective to have. Like I totally can, but it's the ego. It's like, not me.
That's not me. No. And like, it's just the ego wanting to keep you safe. Like I always say, I'm like, anytime you're like, I wish I could kill my ego. I'm like, well, that's something the ego would say. Cause the ego is super self-sabotaging. So it's not about like, it's not about like killing your ego. It's about like actually just getting to know your ego. And like, I treat my ego like a 6-year-old kid. I'm like, okay, we're scared. I understand. But we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. And I got it. And here we go. Like, and we're walking. Like, it's just like a very quick. And then once you really tap into that frequency, decision-making becomes very easy because you're making decisions from a place of your priorities. You're making a decision from a place of your frequency and not a place of like, who am I going to let down if I do this or don't do this? And like life actually gets a lot fucking better. And then you're not putting in so much hard work.
I mean, you're
everybody, we just gave you the secrets to the universe, and I hope you fucking listened.
It's freaking true, and it's just like, how do I, because it's like, want to get to this other side. We want to live a life that we've always wanted, yet we can't take away the things of the way that we've always lived, right, to move forward. But it's you definitely got me.
We could talk about this all day, but tell me about tuning music to the frequency of different things like abundance and stuff. Like, was that just like an all of a sudden, oh, I could do this? Or was that kind of something that you always had been fucking around with and then finally just like let everybody in on the secret? Or
no, I had I've been on the frequency wave for like a good minute in general. And I've always said it like to myself, it's like, oh, I could definitely do it. I mean, it definitely wasn't at the point where it wouldn't make sense for most of the music that I had put out. Even the pop stuff, which I wish the pop stuff would translate as much on social media. But this is the way, like what we found out is a lot of things that we shot and how the camera that we were using to shoot everything, it looked like an ad. It looked too good to be like a content creator. So I hope moving forward, everyone starts shooting in high frame rate and on nice cameras and it looks like that. So then it looks normal. So then therefore we can do the stuff that we started doing. But that's what we realized after a while is like, it wouldn't translate. Even if people love the song, it just, because essentially we're at the algorithm's whim, right? And trying to get it to be pushed so people could hear it. Unless you have a huge marketing budget and you just do it that way too, like totally fine. But organically wise, just like I want to put something out organically and hopefully it hits organically and people plus I don't care, you spend whatever on marketing budget, but you're never going to get the translation that you're going to get organically. You're just never, it's never going to be the same.
Yeah. It's never going to be the same.
It'll never be the same. It'll never hit the same for something. So going off of that, I was like, I couldn't have did it with the pop as far as the frequency stuff and not randomly, nothing's random, but I was just leaving. Where was I leaving? California to come back to PA, like because I knew I needed to shoot content, and my manager shoots, does like most of the camera, any stuff where I'm not holding the camera, he shoots, right? Yeah. And I edit everything. So there was a point where I'm in California. I was there for maybe like 4 months. This was right before I came out here, and we just I had no more content. And I was like, I know I don't want to go back to PA. I don't want to be about the same people, places and things, but I just feel like I have to drive back from California to PA, which sounds so ridiculous that I'd even be making this decision right now. But something in me felt it's the right move. Like his name's Chaz. Chaz is back there. I'll be able to be closer, to him because he's the only one that I work with, and we'll be able to get the content we need. And then I could start this like new idea of like, what if I talk all the stuff I talk about on social media? I'm doing pop, I'm singing, I'm writing all that, but very, very pop. And I'm like, what if I could, because this was really like an excuse. And I had this conversation with him because I didn't want to step into like the hip hop field out of insecurities. People were like, why are you freaking like rapping or doing this stuff? And it's never about like, that's all the music I actually listen to, but it would just be too insecure. I don't want people to think like I'm not, like I genuinely love it. And I'm just here's my interpretation of, I love singing, I love making beats, here's my interpretation. So it held me back forever, and then made the jump, felt like it just was right to go to PA, started filming content. And the first thing I wrote was Too Good when I came back, wrote it, and it freaking just like popped. And we shot the content, and it was the first thing that we did. Actually, Whisper, the first thing that ever like translated and popped for us, was the first thing him and I had done as well. So it felt like that full circle moment into like step into that field and talking about all the things that I talk about, positive, like law of attraction, like self-love and all of these things, but making it like, it's like a tricky way of like making people happier.
It's like cheeky, and like it's a little bit playful, and it's not just like you sitting on a pillow, like
because I love like just hard hitting just music, and especially when it comes to hip-hop and stuff like that. I'm like, what if you could do that, but then all the things I talk about? So essentially it's like you're benefiting someone. Like I could just be talking about X, Y, and Z, like nonsense. What if I actually, it's like a meaning behind it? So that's where it pretty much started, which then started the training. Once I put that song out, I was like, game over, because it took away the insecurities.
Oh yeah. Was that like, the first one?
Out,
that was Too Good?
Their mothers could be like, he's rapping now, like
right.
No one really.
That's how I found you. I think, what was the first? I'm trying to remember, like the very first thing that I think it was Masterpiece. I think Masterpiece was like the first thing, but it wasn't. Well, it was like, I guess it was kind of recent, but like it was Masterpiece, but it wasn't even your video. It was like the lumberjack man in like very short shorts.
Oh yeah.
It was his video. And I was like, first of all, who is this man? He's amazing. But like, more importantly, what is this song? And then like, I just went down. I mean, when I like find something that I like, align with, I'm like, oh my God, like I have to know everything. And so I started to like go deep, and I was like, okay, he was a snowboarder. Dope. Okay, great. He like went through addiction. Okay. I see like the transition. I see the transformation. Okay. Oh, he wrote music and like went on this game show, like went on this show and like produced music for the Jonas. Oh, okay. Awesome. Sick. And then I'm like checking off all these boxes, but it's like your music, it's what you set out to do with like the progression and the transformation of your life. It really does show through your music. And it kind of makes me more excited to see like, what's the next chapter?
I mean, I'm just as excited as you. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been interesting. And really, when it comes to full picture, like exactly what I said, how you talk about manifesting, right? It's like even more picture perfect as a full circle than I could have anticipated, because I wouldn't be able to say I wouldn't be able to say the things that I essentially am saying on the records now in a same voice and not sound corny.
Right.
That's what had tripped me up for so long, because especially as a writer, some things you could write, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I wrote the best thing ever. This makes sense. Look at this pun, whatever you wrote, and you go to sing, it just doesn't sing well. Some things just don't sing well. If I were to sing like I look too good, or like, oh, I'm so pretty, look at me, I'm a masterpiece, that would be a very forceful, tricky thing to, try and like sing and have the same impact without coming off narcissistic or something. So it's like really full picture. It's like, damn, like I would have never, even in the moment where I sat and Able Heart started, and be like, oh, I see this full picture thing, and then it's eventually going to go into this, and people are going to see the full spectrum. I couldn't even have thought that I would have gotten into the lane that I'm in now. But that's the thing, like the other side of fear. If you believe it, it's going on the other side of fear, and the unknown is a life beyond your wildest dreams. So if that was my dream, it's beyond it, right? It's beyond it. So I'm like, damn. So to your point, I'm excited as well. I think I just got this set up like a couple of days ago, and I'm sitting here, I'm like, where do I go, from here? Because sometimes, a lot of times I want it to be intention based, I'm like, okay, I want to say X, Y, and Z on a record because, for one, again, we're at the algorithm's whim. I want it to resonate with as many people as possible. And it's kind of like you have to kind of fit in, not a niche, but it's like, what if the song is different than the last, or if it's on the same field, whatever, what are you going to say? And
like, what's the goal? What's the goal?
Yeah, what's the goal? What's the meaning? What's the purpose? And with this, like, at least, and I have a couple more that I'm releasing that are like on that wave for sure. And I'll still do it on that wave and more in frequencies. But the last couple of days, like I told you saying earlier, like I was just just in the flow state and just let me just make it, even though I can't, actually do the vocals yet. I just like letting it flow. Like I have like some of the stuff, I just let it flow, like with no intention,
Yeah.
like my intention is to have no intent and let it be how it's supposed to be, which I haven't done that in a long time,
Oh, really? Like to surrender to it.
Oh no, it's a job, like that's my perspective. That's been my perspective as a job,
Does it
not
feel
that I don't
good?
love it.
Does it feel
Say that
good to
again?
surrender? Does it feel good to surrender to it, or is it still feeling a little crazy?
No, it feels great. Because I don't think about the outcome. If I'm like, well, what part of this song am I going to freaking use for social media? This won't even make sense. This would have to
Right.
sit on an album. Like
Right.
if I start
Right.
thinking about that stuff, then I can't create whatever is supposed to be created,
Right. Right.
which could essentially be the next wave. So I can't be with my ego of a human and be like, I know all these answers. I don't. But if I just like let it flow in this creative state when I really don't have a choice in the sense of like being able to do this right now, mine as well, just see what comes from it, and then that's that. At the end of the day, I can create something cool and special. If something is tricky to be like, okay, like masterpiece could make sense for a piece of content, let's do it this way. If it's something not like that, maybe I could create like something cool for people where it is translate, because it's all positive at the end of the day.
Positive. Yeah. It's all positive, and it's all like, I honestly think too, I think there's a lot of really cool shit happening in the music industry right now where we're like, it's not just like low frequency music that's like hitting you in a place that doesn't feel good and keeping you stuck in this thing. Like your music really does. And I guess like as a business coach, I can see what you're doing. And I'm like, okay, the repetition of these videos going out like every day, like the same song and like different versions of it, like it's fucking brilliant. And like, I can see how your mind works and I can see how brilliant it is. But this is just to show like so many people, they go after something and like they throw it all out there once. It doesn't work, or it doesn't hit, or it doesn't happen the way they want. And then they're like, oh, well, that doesn't work for me. And I think if anything, you're this permission slip that it's the repetition of it. It's the like removing the blocks of like, I need to, I should, I have to, based on what everyone else is doing. And instead, like, I'm going to just tap into like my own frequency, what I want, what, is coming through me, be this conduit for whatever it is that's meant to come out. And then we're just going to repeat it like 100 fucking times.
I mean, yeah, you could have said it better. I mean, I didn't want to do TikTok at all. I didn't want to do like any of this.
Oh, you didn't?
Anything that I'm doing right now, I was so against. When I
and TikTok has your biggest following right now, right?
Yeah. I didn't want to do
so crazy.
I didn't want to do any of it. I didn't, because I just, again, perception and what are people going to say? What are people going to think? And if I'm going to do it, then it has to be, if I'm going to sing, it's got to be live. I'm not going to pre-track it and lip sync it. It's got to be perfect. And it's got to be filmed on an A7S3. And it's got like all of these standards that I had set. If I am going to do it, held me back from ever doing it. Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't want to do it at all. It's just so against it. But when I moved out to California for like the third or fourth time, I was like, it doesn't matter. Like it full send, I was like, at this point, I was like, I felt like how it was life or death for me before. I was like, it's going to happen or not. I think I just spent all the money I had at that point in time on an Airbnb,
Oh yeah.
I was like, it's going to happen. That's all that I had. I had just enough to get off gas. No option. No plan B. I've never lived my life with a plan B. I've just never done that. And I was like, this is what's going to happen. And I'm going to shut to myself. This is what we do now. And I'm going to just every single day, I'm going to as many TikToks as I possibly do. And in my head, I'm like, I'm going to do 4 to 5 every single day. Like just thinking that that's a realistic thing, which it totally is. And I've done, but at first it's like trying to create the routine. And I was like, well, how can I do this? And also be genuine, but also like get as much content as possible per day. And I was creating I was being too difficult. Like I wanted everything to be perfect.
Well, that's the ego, right? That's the ego being like, the only way it's going to work is if all these boxes are checked. And if you're not willing to do that, well, then don't even try.
Then don't even do it. And then that pairs with the hard work as well. It's like, because, I understand someone else couldn't do it, but because of my determination, my drive, and the way that I actually work, and I put in that work, that it's like that. But it was just ridiculous. And I went through it. I mean, so much. That's all I was doing. It was completely full time every single day. I had no idea where like the next dollar was going to be, but it was just that's what it is. It's going to be this every day, as many pieces of content. And then little by little, I started to just let go, like let go of like it needing to be so perfect. I think I needed to hit, with knowing my work ethic, especially then, I needed to hit that like ground zero of like, oh my gosh, like there's no way I could do this every single day for the rest of my life. I just spent, like worked from like right up in the morning to all the way at night. And I only got like 3 pieces of content done. And they were like 6 seconds long. Yeah. And I'm like, how? Like, I'm doing it. I'm the one that's making this difficult. Yeah. Like all these things that I know in life and I want to sit here. So I had to just eat and digest everything that I freaking speak. And I just started doing it. I was just like, okay, let me see how this works. This rhythm, this doesn't need to be perfect. The lighting isn't perfect. Like I can feel the same thing now. I don't know why there's a freaking glare on my face and there's multiple shadows here. It's whatever.
It's whatever. Because like if like somebody's gonna watch that and be like, oh, there's a shadow on his face, and like no one's gonna fucking do that.
That's a great point. You have music too. My dad has that as well. It's like, oh my gosh, you spend this on this little sound, on this little tiny sound, you spend so much hours and hours. No one is going to hear it. No one, you could give them the song with it in there and without it, no one would freaking know the difference. And ironically, like we talked about before with content or music, anything, it's the thing where you just, this is way easier. Stop fucking forcing it.
I know. And how many people stop? Like how many people turn away? Like it's like you just gave people so many golden nuggets because it's so true. I see so many people be like, oh, well, I launched it that time. And I remember like the first business I built, I got like real success. I mean, it's funny. I was really successful. Like compared to now, it's like night and day. But at that moment, that was the most successful I had ever been. And it was Christmas time. We were living in LA in Highland Park, like my dream neighborhood, like right off of York. We could walk everywhere. And like it was Christmas Eve. My son had like every gift he ever wanted under the tree. Like she was my girlfriend at the time. We're married now, but like we had all these things. And I remember sitting there on the couch being like, I had so much anxiety and I had so much stress that the other shoe was going to fall. And I remember going, if this is success, I don't fucking want it. Like
wait. So you were fearful, you're saying around
I just was working so hard and I had this like need to, should, have to, like trying to do all the things all at once. And it was like
maintain it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then like, I was like, if this is success, I don't fucking want it. And so I like burnt out. I pulled way back. I started a whole new business. And like now, like I work half the amount of time. I hire out. So I have a huge team that like helps me with things that like feel draining to me. So I can stay in my genius. Like it's just one of those things that, and I make way more money. And I don't sit on the couch at night with like stress. I sit on my $10,000 couch being like, life is fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's huge. And I'm super, that makes me super happy for you. I mean, that's.
Yeah, same back at you.
It's so true.
Do you ever like, when you do feel the fear, because obviously I think the common understanding is like when you become successful, all of a sudden you don't get afraid. And I'm like, oh no, to the contrary, actually. Like, actually, you're more afraid. It's just that the fear doesn't stop you. So do you still feel those feelings of like, oh, fuck?
Not pretty much around any, it's gonna sound so silly. Not much. It depends. Like, what would it depend? I'm trying to think of like what would really. Like it's going to be not anything associated with what we talk about. The only thing that would probably scare me is to like ask a girl out. It sounds so funny. I don't know why and it has nothing
it makes sense.
Anything I do, but that would be a fear. And because I haven't made the best choices in the past and just the things that I've dealt with, my fear is I'm not at a point where I'm going to move past my fear and that because I'm like, oh, well, now, especially when I came here, I was like, I could like have someone in my life. I don't have to be alone anymore, But it's funny, but it's really not. But at the same time, I was like, like I'm not at that point where I feel like I could, like I genuinely, if I'm being like selfless, like could give myself like there's to someone to have that time, and I know that's effed up. And if I know that and I'm not at that point in my life, then don't do it, But that's pretty much outside of like like it was just so silly, like a relationship or something, which I don't even know why I brought that up.
No, but it's real. Like that's a real thing. Like I actually think, Abel, I think like the most selfless a person can be is really selfish with their time and energy. And if you're able to just like know where you're at, like I actually had this conversation with my wife the other day. I was like, I don't think, because like we're in very different phases of our careers. Like she's in this like place of her business where she's really building, and like she's in this like hustle, she's in that grind phase. And I said to her, I was like, I don't think you have the capacity right now to like give yourself give your support to somebody months ahead of time. Like that's just not the phase of your life that you're at. And I think that's okay. And you know what? I used to be there. Like at this point, no, I could give my support to somebody 3 months from now. And I know even if something else came up, like I'm financially, like I'm like emotionally, financially, like stable enough that like I could stick to that. But I think that's what a lot of people think is that, oh, I don't know if I'm ready for that, but like I'm going to do it anyway. And it's like, well, this idea that you have to, I don't think it's two halves ever looking for a whole. I think people that in relationships, people that look for their other half, I think that is a disaster waiting to happen. I think we should be wholes and then we come together with other wholes.
So true. So true. And then that's what I started to realize. I was like, damn, so that's just me going out and forcefully wanting something to happen. Nothing's going to happen organically. I'm just forcing that thing to happen because
like your business, like your career. Like if you forced it, it would have never happened.
Exactly. Why, you know? So, but that's outside of that. Yeah. To answer your question, is it fear? You know, it's like, is this piece of content going to work? Is it not? I really genuinely, there's no fear. When
you're neutral. You're neutral. It's no longer like
I know
extreme.
everything happens for a reason.
Right.
And I also know that I don't know what the next thing is going to be. So why would I try? But I do know if I force it, if I'm like, I need to get a million pieces of content. Anytime I've done that, even recently, it's like, I need to force this out and get this piece of content and blah, 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 because I edit everything. So I have to do that. But then I also have to make music. I have to mix, master, sound design, engineer, sing, and then write everything. I'm just
fucking sucks, right? Like it's the worst content.
I'm just, and it never translates. And I'm like, oh, and then I feel resentment towards myself and I should have did it in alignment. And so it's like, why? You know, like normally it'd be really upsetting, which is almost going to the point it's going to upset me. But normally, because I don't even think I posted something yet today, but I'm like, then that's what it is. I woke up and I made the choice this morning to finish like something I was working on. And that was the choice that I made, you know, that just felt right. I felt like doing it and I finished it. So it's just the choices that we make. And it's just like kind of in that moment. And that's why I have my meditation, my stretch and meditation in the morning. It's like the most important thing to me, you know.
Well, and doing things like, okay, so this morning you were feeling pressure around posting content. Like I've totally been there where I'm like, oh, feel like posting something right now feels like a lot of pressure. I'll go do something for a while that like invigorates me, like a podcast episode or something where I'm like able to, my brain turns on. Guess what? I guarantee you, as soon as you go back to content today, it's going to be fucking awesome. Like it's just...
Yeah, for sure.
Just one of those things.
And the day, the time management around the day, you know, it's like that in the gym. And am I going to go to the gym or get a piece of content? It's like you can do both. It's just just finding the right time to do everything. Time management changed the game for me. Shout out to my manager Charles, because
what's up, Charles?
He came from the business world, you know, so he came from like big biz and came into the entertainment industry. And none of it makes sense. I mean,
no, and he's like, all y'all need a plan.
None of it makes sense. You know, like even I knew that, you know, I felt like I tried to say that to him. It's like, none of it makes sense. X, Y, Z, these things happen within the industry. It's like, but yeah, time management was a big thing because he knew, he's like, I saw that I never slept and I never did all these things. Mind you, we were friends growing up. We were never involved in the business with each other like we are now, but he was just like, you just need to like time management, you know? And so
it does what law of attraction. And like, I always say, like, you cannot out manifest bad strategy, just like you cannot out strategize bad mindset and like connection with the universe. And they do work hand in hand. I think that building a business or building a brand, whatever it is, I do think it's 80% like mindset and like connection with universe and 20% strategy, but you really can't do one without the other. And I was always like, fly by the seat of my pants. Like, I'm a dancer, I'm an artist, I'm in these things, like whatever I want goes. But then like I hired a business manager who was like, hi, none of this is going to work forever if we don't get some shit in place. And I was like, oh, okay, well then let's do that. Let's get some shit in place.
Yeah, it's
true.
nuts. It's really,
It really is.
but again, there's those levels to the shit, right? Like
Totally.
there's just what it is. And
I'd rather deal with this shit than the old shit I used to deal with.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's everyone also learns at a different point of time, but again, and I think it's awesome as well at what you're doing and putting out the content and the things that you talk about, because
Thanks.
it's like, well, if I can expedite, not that I'm trying to force, but if I can expedite someone else being able to stop going through the ish for so long in order to find themselves by putting out a piece of content or talking about these things.
Pressing the fast forward button for them.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I can't play God and be like, well, I'm going to make them digest this. I can't, and it resonates with who it resonates with, but it would never happen. Then it'd be completely selfish. So I was like, I just don't want to do it.
Right.
It's very easy to do that. Like it's sometimes
totally. Well, what are you, before I let you go, what are you most excited about right now?
All of it. I'm so excited about just all of it, all the unknown, what's going to freaking happen, what's like, just all of it. I think the unknown, the unknown of what the next thing is going to be and putting that out and just, I don't know. I'm so happy within the moment, that I think to even anticipate, because it's going to happen. It always does, and I just want to enjoy the ride. Yeah, you have enough things happen, like positive. You're like, shit, okay, this happens. Then you start to see the serum for that, right? Yeah. You digest that and it's like, okay, shit. So like, if this is always going to continue to happen like this when I'm in alignment and these are the things, then what? Like, damn, it's all about this. Like the conversation we're having. This is what it's about.
This is what it's about. And you posted something, I don't know if it was it was probably on both, but I saw it on Instagram and you were like talking about like, everybody wants to get there. Everybody wants to like achieve, and you said it way better than I'm going to right now, but you're like, everybody wants to get to that next step and everybody wants all these things, but like they're forgetting to just be really grateful for like the now, because being in the now and being grateful for the now puts you in the frequency to receive more. And I was like, I was like sitting on my bed and I like threw my phone down like it was a mic and I was like, yes.
Yeah, it's so true. So I think, to answer your question, I just want to be here. I want to be present. My mom's moving out to Florida, which is super huge. She's going to come visit. My manager's going to be out here this month. Awesome. And just be creative and try new things. I think is a big one, that even though like this is all a new thing, I just freaking drove out to Miami. I was like, if I don't like it, I'm just going to drive to California. So essentially it is all new things, but I just want to continuously have new experiences and to continue to evolve, and to get comfortable getting uncomfortable. Obviously, like that's a huge motto of mine, but I
think as a creator, as a coach, as an artist, musician, whatever it is, I think our role is live our life, learn the lessons, teach those lessons in whatever modality you do it. And so, I mean, I think it's awesome that you went and put yourself in that's what we did with Texas. Like, never really even like spent a lot of time in Texas, but here we are. I have deer in my backyard that I think are my pets now. And like, that's giving me this whole new lease on life. And guess what? It's translating to new content. It's translating to new courses. It's translating to new podcast episodes. Like it really does. And I think a lot of people like can benefit from, if you feel stuck, you're not, and put yourself in a situation or go somewhere you've never been and like, see what happens, see what flows, surrender.
That is so true.
Yeah. You are such a legend. I think you're just so rad, and it's just been so awesome, like watching this progression of everything you're doing. I know this probably won't be the last time we connect. So
no, definitely not. Yeah, we should definitely do another one sometime.
I love that. I'll come to Miami. I love Miami.
Oh, that'd be sick. Yeah, because I'm trying to make this half podcast room and half
you have a podcast too. Yeah, we could record on your show and we could just it'll be fun. Down. I will come to Miami anytime just for the food alone. I'm like, oh, we're Miami? No problem. Yes, food. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Let's do it. I'm down.
Well, we're going to put all of the ways to connect with you all in our show notes, but thanks again for just like pouring in to, all the people here. And it's just been a real honor.
No, seriously. Thank you for having me. You have no idea. I love having these conversations, but I appreciate you inviting me on.